Look at the lack of emotion. There's zero emotion. I mean, not for herself, not for him. And that is a mark of a narcissist.
And did you want him to feel some uncomfort?
Why would you ask that? Did you want him to feel uncomfortable? No, I wanted to kill him because I was in fear of my life. That's what battered spouse syndrome is. You know, I took his life because I was afraid I was going to die, not because I wanted to hurt him.
With him in the suitcase still, it was still funny that he was still in the suitcase.
How funny is it that he's suffocating and dying right in front of you? She comes off as cold and just not even cold, but just uncaring. Like she doesn't give a shit.
I mean, I just I zipped him up. We thought it was funny. And we're joking about how he was, I guess, small enough to fit inside of the suitcase.
Thinking it was funny. Well, that's different from her saying they were playing hide and seek. We shouldn't really laugh about it because a guy died. But it is just one of the craziest cases I've ever seen.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
This is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, here with our content genius that you know as Michael Rivers, our content genius, the man behind the plan, the man in front of the microphone, behind the microphone, the man behind the plan. He is the content genius. You all know that Sarah Boone was not successful in her bid for an acquittal. Big surprise there. So we're reacting to some of the craziest moments in the Sarah Boone testimony. But before we get to that, you know, you talk about somebody who's a little bit crazy. Who's crazy in my basement? Do you know who's crazy in my basement? That would be my grandma. Grandma is, you know, she's downstairs with her friends, and sometimes she does this, sometimes she does that. So we're trying to sell Grandma's stuff. You know, she doesn't need half the stuff. I mean, she can't ride her rocket-powered scooter anymore, and the reason she can't ride is because she's just can't see very well. She's very able-bodied, and she's got her OnlyFans feed page. She still does that. So we have to get a bill of sale because you don't want to have somebody say that they stole it, right? So we get and you want to have Grandma sign off on it if she can. If she can't, you get a power of attorney. Where would you get these legal forms if you needed them? I know. How about eforms.com? eforms.com, very loyal sponsor to CLR. We love them. We love them. We love them. Grandma loves them because we protect Grandma with eForms. eForms.com, very effective way to stay out of court or win when you get to court because the documents don't lie. And having those legal forms that you're ready by eForms is a good way to avoid the high cost of a lawyer. So, eForms.com. Please, if you need any kind of legal form, go there and support them because they support us. So, Miss Boone, as she likes to be called because she's the lady of the manor, Miss Boone was in a very loving relationship with Jorge or George Torres. And if you remember, they were playing hide and seek apparently. And when they were playing hide and seek, she stuffed him in a suitcase, locked it up, and wouldn't let him out. And then she made fun of him. Kind of shocking that her cruelty was not given sympathy by a jury, right?
Fuck you.
Yeah. For everything you've done to me. That's what it feels like when you cheat on me. Talking about, I can't breathe, Sarah. Anyway, we shouldn't really laugh about it because a guy died. But it is just one of the craziest cases I've ever seen. And crazier still is the cross-examination of Sarah Boone. So she took here's the thing. When you're in trial, you do not have to take the stand in your own defense. For example, if you already gave an interview to the police, unless you need to clean something up, you don't testify. You try to keep your client off the stand if possible. That's just criminal defense 101. But when you have a client that is narcissistic and has got narcissistic personality disorder, which I'm a certified non-psychologist. I'm not a psychologist. But I guarantee you she's got narcissistic traits You know what a narcissist is, right? Somebody that doesn't give a shit about anybody else, only gives a shit about them in every scenario, and has no compassion for others. Now, their defense was kind of a battered partner syndrome, or whatever you want to call that. So let's just take a look at and see what some of these funny moments are.
I just I zipped him up. We thought it was funny, and we're joking about how he was, I guess, small enough to fit inside of.
And keep in mind, she's 140 pounds, he's 103 pounds.
Were you trying to kill him?
Never.
Did you want to kill him?
So this is her direct examination. This is her lawyer talking.
Did you want to kill him?
I did not.
Did you do anything to help him escape from the predicament that you zipped him up in?
No.
So unlike the YSL trial, which was out of control, and you see what happened when a good judge gets a hold of that case? You know, number one, it got resolved. And number two, she didn't put up with any shit, and she's moving things along. There's no way that case should have taken that long. This case took less than a week. And keep in mind, one of the things and this is, I mean, the trial itself didn't take that long, but it took us 4 years to get to trial. And she went through 8 other lawyers. How ridiculous is that? Those kind of clients are almost, they're just impossible.
I don't even think I made it all the way down the stairwell because I was just looking for him as soon as I could to hopefully go upstairs as soon as we could. And I looked over and I saw him settling himself in the suitcase.
What did you do?
In my head, I said, oh man, we're obviously not going to be going to sleep anytime soon.
When you got to him, did he see you?
Yes.
All right. Tell us what happened.
Now look at her affect. By affect, I mean like her personality and her emotion. She's on trial for her life, but this is somebody that she supposedly was in a romantic relationship that died. Zero affect. Zero. I mean, she might as well be talking about going to a car wash.
I mean, I zipped him up. We thought it was funny, and we're joking about how he was, I guess, small enough to fit inside of the suitcase.
All right. So what
Thinking
happened?
it was funny. Well, that's different from her saying they were playing hide and seek.
All right. So what happened then?
From there, it was just we were laughing about it, and
Does he look like he's laughing? Sarah, I can't breathe. He doesn't look like he's laughing at all. Who's laughing, though? Sarah's laughing.
it was just strange that he was small enough to fit in there, and then I kind of moved it around a little bit with him in the suitcase still. It was still funny that he was still in the suitcase.
How funny is it that he's suffocating and dying right in front of you? She comes off as cold. And just, not even cold, but just uncaring. Like she doesn't give a shit.
It's just, I think he and I were just kind of, couldn't believe that he could fit in the suitcase.
Did you eventually close the top?
Yes, in order for, well, the top was already closed. As he was settling himself in there, that's how I knew he was in there, was because the top was kind of flopping a little bit.
So he had gotten in there to hide, and he pulled the top
Yes,
on top of it. But you could tell he was in there.
yes,
You saw him right away.
yes,
All right. So at some point, did you zip him up?
yes.
Did you?
This just doesn't seem right to me. I still don't know how she got him in that fucking suitcase. I mean, I can't believe he just decides, I'm going to hide and seek right in the suitcase.
What was he saying or doing when you were zipping him up?
We just thought it was funny.
Were you both laughing?
Yes,
And so you zipped him up. Were y'all still laughing once you zipped him up?
yes. Just see the, I guess the jest in it for him to understand that right now I feel safe, and right now I have the ability to actually speak to you in a manner that normally I would not have the ability to.
So in other words, now I can abuse you like you've abused me. Just so you know, it is never okay to take revenge. That is not a legal excuse. You cannot take revenge. If somebody tried to, assault you yesterday, tomorrow you can't go after them. It just doesn't work that way.
Do.
And you were intoxicated,
Yes.
and you would agree that you said some things you should not have.
Yes.
Right? But you realized he could not get out and get at you. Is that fair?
At that moment, yes.
So it goes on for about 10 minutes.
She delights. She absolutely delights in his misery.
Yes.
You heard it here today, did you not?
Yes.
You heard his voice as he was speaking from the suitcase.
Yes.
That was his voice on the video and audio.
Yes.
And you heard your voice on the video and audio.
Yes.
That was your voice.
For everything you've done to me. I mean, she just sounds so like a witch. It's so... She had the opportunity to just leave or call the cops on him.
Yes.
All those things said by the man were said by George in that 2-minute video.
Correct.
All the words said by the female were said by you in that 2-minute video.
Correct.
Withering direct examination.
Were you intending on showing him the video the next day?
Yes.
At the time or the next day, is it fair to say you don't even remember a videotape?
I do not.
So,
An intoxication is not a defense to the underlying crime here.
you can tell from watching it, did that refresh your memory about that event?
It did.
Why did you say all that?
I want you all to know that the majority of the time, am always afraid and always scared.
All right, well, I understand that. Okay, I understand that. But,
The majority of the time, I'm always scared, I'm always afraid. But at that moment, he's a captured audience. He's 103 pounds. He is 103 pounds locked in a suitcase. You could have called the cops right then and there. You could have left.
would it be fair to say that you had some anger at that point?
I did.
Would it be fair to say that you wanted to tell him off to some degree?
I just wanted, yes.
So those feelings of anger, of revenge, telling him off, that's revenge. That's not consistent with someone who is experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder from being beaten all the time. Usually the battered woman or battered spouse syndrome, they're lashing out because they're in fear for their life, not because they want to get back at somebody.
For understanding, which was the whole point of the videos and documentation prior.
And you could tell that he was uncomfortable.
I'm guessing.
These questions are designed to do what? You could tell that he was uncomfortable. You could tell that he was locked in there. You could tell he couldn't breathe. It's just, where is he going with this? This is not helping her case at all.
And did you want him to feel some uncomfort?
Why would you ask that? Did you want him to feel uncomfortable? No, I wanted to fucking kill him because I was in fear of my life. That's what battered spouse syndrome is. I took his life because I was afraid I was going to die, not because I wanted to hurt him.
I did.
Okay.
Case.
It got very heated very quickly, and he continued to push on the suitcase. And my fear was that he was going to break out of the suitcase, knowing that it was a broken suitcase. And
when you listen to her voice during that recording, she doesn't sound scared at all. She doesn't sound like he was going to break out of the suitcase. She just sounds vindictive and mean.
his hand started to come through. His hand started to come through this way. And so I shook the suitcase, trying to get his hand to go back in, shaking it. and telling him that, please stop doing this. Please stop doing this to me. Please stop doing this to me.
Please stop doing what to you? He's trying to escape a fucking suitcase. He's not doing anything to her. And she's not having PTSD symptoms or reactions when she's telling him, fuck you for everything you've done to me. You know, I mean.
So his hand actually got out of the suitcase.
Yes.
And you went to the suitcase
Yes.
and shook it.
Yes.
Did that force his hand to go back in?
No.
So you're shaking it. Were you shaking it to try to get the suitcase, his hand back in?
Yes.
How long did you shake it?
So she's intentionally confining him to the suitcase.
How long did you shake it?
I don't know.
But his hand was still out.
Yes.
Was he trying to get out?
Forcefully, yes.
Was he angry at you?
Yes.
And when you listen to him, he sounds pretty passive. You know, Sarah, I can't breathe. You know, I mean,
Were you in fear?
Always.
If he would have gotten out of the suitcase, what would he have done to you?
Like he used to tell me.
objection calls for speculation.
Like he used to tell me, he probably would have made me unrecognizable, or I would have lost my life. For the split-second reaction that I had, I happened to see that, and I grabbed the baseball bat and was trying to poke his hand to go back in, to please don't break through, please. So I hit his
So how did they go from this is really funny to you're going to stay in there until you're dead?
hand.
And you said you poked him with it?
Yes, I kind of pushed, like I held it with the skinny part here, and then
So the grip here,
prodded at it, yes.
you grabbed it with both hands here,
Yes,
and then the barrel of the bat, the big part of the bat is here.
correct.
And you thrusted it into the different areas of the suitcase?
I started with his hand, and his hand, he was still trying to get out. He was still trying to do that. So I started to push on the suitcase around it, hoping to have his hand retract and go back inside.
So what's your ultimate goal in doing that? Sending a message to him? I mean, being in fear for your life is a critical part of the defense. But she does not sound at all like she's afraid for her life. When she's, drunk and on that recording.
I did,
We've seen the photographs.
yes,
We see the bruising. Is that from that bat?
yes,
So he's bruised from her beating him with a bat.
Eventually, did his hand go back inside from you doing?
yes. Finally, he had subsided and retracted his hand.
So in your mind, did you?
And this is totally different from what she told the cops at the scene. At the scene, there's no dispute between us. Everything was fine.
Prevent him from attacking you?
Absolutely,
Did you believe that he could breathe in there?
yes.
Did you ever believe he could die in there?
When he says, I can't breathe, what was your first clue that he could breathe?
No, at all.
Were you trying to kill him?
Never.
Did you want to kill him?
I did not. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before.
Describe it for the jury.
I would hope not. I would hope you've never experienced anything like that before. Come on, Sarah, because this would be your second murder charge then.
I guess I was aghast, and I just can't describe the feeling.
Bless you.
It was terror to
Bless you.
a certain degree.
I'm sorry. Say that again now.
It was terror to a certain degree. I just can't describe it in words, the feeling of remembering. And then he was still in there.
So what did you do?
I immediately unzipped.
Look at the lack of emotion. There's zero emotion. I mean, not for herself, not for him. And that is a mark of a narcissist.
I immediately unzipped the suitcase and I was screaming, George, 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 and I was shaking him, and I pulled him out.
Remember, her first call was not to 911. Her first call was not for help from the authorities. It was to her ex.
And I stretched him out flat, and then I began instantly trying to do CPR, and then was trying to look for a pulse or a breath or just anything, and was just screaming his name over and over and over again, and come on, George, and I continued CPR, and I continued CPR, and he was gurgling, and
What color was he?
what color was he?
Yes.
He was purple. I lied to the police. Basically everyone, because I was extremely fearful of being arrested. I made the first attempt of me calling 911 by telling them what happened, and I thought they were going to help me, but instead I was arrested for calling 911.
So that is a common response. A lot of people lie to the cops because they're afraid they're going to get busted. But it doesn't change the fact that if you're willing to protect your own ass, you know, what else are you going to lie about?
So you made the decision to lie.
I did.
Did you stay with that lie?
I did.
Are you telling the truth today?
I am.
Now let me take you back to the
We did a reaction to her interrogation, and she thought for sure she was going home. She had no clue.
to this incident. Is it fair to say that when George Torres is sober, he commits no violence against you?
No.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that every time that he's intoxicated or every time that you're hit by him or harmed by him, it's when he's intoxicated?
Yes.
Objection, leading. See, the prosecutor's not even stepping into this because he wants her to just go off and dig her own grave, so to speak.
As a result, when he's drinking, does it change your outlook?
Yes.
Could you explain that to the jury?
I'm always fearful, paranoia.
Why?
See, one of the things she's doing there is she's searching for the answers, right? Did you hear the tone in her voice? I'm always fearful, kind of almost like asking a question. And it just isn't believable.
Because I try to protect and defend myself for fear something happens at the last ultimate second.
But you're always that way, fearful. Is it because of these prior incidences?
Absolutely.
Ms. Boone, is that you?
Yes.
Are those injuries to your arm?
Yes.
Were they caused by George Torres?
Yes.
And during the same incident, is this you?
Yes.
Is that an injury?
Because you're a victim of domestic violence does not necessarily mean that you are suffering from a battered spouse or partner syndrome.
Or bruise to your ribcage area?
Yes.
You had to go to the hospital as a result of these injuries to your thigh?
Yes. It was
Okay.
extremely
Is this-
painful.
Is that a depiction of the burn?
Yes.
Is that your thigh?
My thigh, yes.
And your knee?
Yes. So, George stabbed me in my leg. I almost bled to death.
All right, well, let's go back and explain what led up to that.
I thought it would be nice to cook a nice steak dinner. We don't have two nickels to rub together, so I thought it would be special to make a steak dinner and make potato and go above the normal whatever's left over in the refrigerator. And then he came upstairs and saw that I had made the steak dinner, and I don't know how to describe how drunk he was, but it definitely was not George. And then he started to pull on me and kept saying that, excuse me, that I just want to you on the steak and you on the potatoes. And I took offense to that, and I kept trying to encourage him to eat. I started to crawl off of the bed to leave, just the bedroom. And he told me again that I'm not going anywhere, and he stabbed me in my leg, and it crunched. You could hear a noise that it made, and blood just started to come out of my leg just like a fountain. As anyone who has ever been in love or...
So one of the common, like let's say she's testifying and the other way around. Like, so let's say George is on trial and she's testifying about one of the questions that you're going to ask is, well, why didn't she leave? That's what Long Crime was asking them as well. Why wouldn't she leave? And there are reasons to question that and reasons not.
Anyone who has ever been in love, or when you love someone, or primarily someone or something, you go above and beyond, and you tolerate and you endure and you persevere, and you try to make that person as spectacular as you possibly can, no matter the sacrifice that you may have to go through to serve someone else in a positive light, so they can be better people for themselves, and to just make them a happier person.
Okay, that was...
So victims often do whatever they can to try to appease their abuser. That definitely is true. But the tough thing for a jury is, okay, where's the line? Is this bullshit or is it reality? And if it's reality, does it reach the threshold of diminished capacity, which is essentially what a battered spouse syndrome is? So that was some of the highlights, as brought to you by Law and Crime of Sarah Boone's testimony. And let's just fast forward to the verdict. We know what the verdict was, but it's always exciting to watch that.
See everybody nodding their heads. Okay. State, are we ready to bring in our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, are we ready to bring in our jury?
Yes, Judge.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in our jury. Everyone will remain seated.
So there is no, as a defense lawyer, there is no more nerve-wracking time than waiting for a verdict. I mean, sometimes you know ahead of time what it's going to be. Sometimes I fucking got this. But those are rare. Those are absolutely rare. But your palms are sweaty, your heart is beating fast, and it just seems like it takes forever for them to bring the jury in. I remember sitting there with a client once, and he looks at me, and I knew we had the case won. And he looks at me and says, "Is it too late to take a deal?" And I said, "Yeah, it's too late to take a deal. We got this." And he was almost going to take a deal. And the jury came back and acquitted him of everything. See, I mean, I'm almost sweaty now.
State, do you recognize our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury? Members of the jury, you may be seated. Thank you. Members of our jury, good evening. I understand that you've come to a verdict in this case.
Yes.
If you could please hand the verdict form to the deputy, please. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the Ninth Judicial Circuit in Orange County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 2603, the State of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Verdict: we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 25th day of October 2024. The form has been signed by the foreperson.
Madam Clerk, please poll our jury.
Juror seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 2, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 3, is this your true
Yes,
and
it
correct
is.
verdict? Juror seat number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
All right, we're not going to go through all the polling of the jury, but that's just to make sure that each one on the jury is not a holdout or saying, you know what, I really didn't agree, but they made me vote yes, just so there's no shenanigans going on. That's an Irish word, by the way. But look at her. She's not, there's no emotion. There's something missing with her. And that's generally what you get with a narcissistic personality disorder. And you're also going to see, I guarantee you she's going to turn on her lawyer. He didn't do this. He didn't do this. He didn't do this. He did this. And he said all these things to me and he promised me this. She's going to do that. I guarantee it. So I've been practicing for almost 27 years. I am board certified, which means I've had so many trials, cross-examined so many experts. I have had 4 lawyers, 4 judges, and 4 prosecutors all vouch for my credentials, taken 2 tests. I've tried a lot of cases in 26 years, 27 years. And, when you see a client go through this process, some go through it well, some not so well. And it's a very difficult thing to go through. As I've seen it with my own family. My father was convicted and went to prison and of Medicare and Medicaid fraud, with his ambulance business way back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's devastating to a family. Her child is no longer going to have a mom around. Not that she was a great mom, because if she's drinking a couple Magnums, she's probably not really lucid to be a parent. She was supposed to have her kid that next morning, and she was just hung over as shit. How can you parent like that? You can't. But at the same time, George's family doesn't have George around anymore. And George had a daughter, I guess. And these cases are based on dumb decisions. She should have left. If it was that bad, you should have left. And this is a call out to anybody who's suffering from domestic violence. Leave. Fucking leave. Do what you got to do. Get a restraining order. I know it's easier said than done. I know it's easier said than done because guess what? He's holding the money over my head. I'm not working. I'm just staying home watching the kids. I'm trapped. So what? Do what you got to do. There's resources out there for everybody. This is absolutely no surprise that she was convicted. The jury did not like her. They did not buy what she was selling. And the lawyer who went out of his way to respond to her homemade ad to get the publicity, is this helping your practice? It took a lot of time out of your practice. Actually, probably not that much, because he only took it a month ago? And then they tried this stupid case. And what did they offer her? They offered her 15 years? Something like that?
Wait, was that the offer?
I think that was the offer. The original offer was 15 years. 15, she did 65% of it. She's already got 4 in. She'd be out in about 4 or 5 years. That was her offer, and she wouldn't take it. And her lawyer probably didn't counsel her on that. I don't know that for sure, and I shouldn't say that. But anybody that would take a case like this just for the publicity, I wouldn't trust them to try a dog napping case.
So going forward, now we go to the sentencing period. She wasn't sentenced there, was she?
No.
So what do you anticipate she's going to be looking at?
So now what's going to happen is they set it on for sentencing. Usually out about 8 weeks, they do a pre-sentence investigation, which means the probation goes into her history, find out who she is as a person. They're going to really play up, okay, well, that may not have been a legal defense, but it is a mitigating factor, and here's why you should give her a lesser sentence, because she wouldn't have done this but for the abuse. Bullshit. I mean, she was drunk and being mean. That's really what it comes down to. So we'll follow the sentencing when it comes up, but that's what's going to happen. And then this is the natural life of a criminal case. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you get your merch. Michael, where do they get their merch?
You can go to CLRBruceRivers.com for all sorts of stuff. As you can see here, you can go to CLRBruceRivers.com for the hat, for the hoodies, prints, all sorts of stuff, new stuff coming down the pike. So make sure you go to CLR Bruce Rivers for everything related to our channel. And it's made in-house by me and a couple of very close comrades. So
we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and look for us on Facebook. See you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, police is at my God.